And I must say that we live in a world, and I remind you of often, that is very capitalistic. It is driven by the need to have more, whether we outwardly say it or outwardly show it. From the time we are children, the time in which we die, most of us live our lives gaining stuff, trying to prove ourselves to people, and trying to live by the standards that we believe in this world that we live in sets for success. Being a loser in the 21st century in the United States of America is nothing that many of us try to achieve to be. Losing is taught against. And I remember back when I was a kid, I would always hear coaches, the persons that I am in relationship with, saying that there are no losers. But yet we are reminded all the time that there's either going to be a winner or a loser. And I don't care who you are, the majority of us don't like losing. And I don't know anyone that walks around and freely says, I don't have a problem with losing. I am a loser. I am fresh off of, it spoke to me on yesterday. Some of you know I coached a Little League basketball team of 10 and 11-year-olds for the past 3 months. And we had gone from the first Saturday in January all the way through yesterday without losing a game. We were 8-0 and won all of our games. But yesterday, in the championship game, we ended up losing. And we lost by like 9 points. And I saw the pain of losing in the eyes of every one of those little kids. 9 of them, 10 and 11-year-olds. They so wanted to win that losing to them wasn't anything that they can even imagine. And so all of them with tears in their eyes, crying, outward expressions of disbelief. One of the parents came behind and had no clue he was helping me with my sermon on yesterday. One of the parents came when we were trying to encourage the kids after the loss. And we are out in the hallway all by ourselves. And the parent came and said that losing is a part of life. And he went on to say that this feeling that you have right now, you don't ever want to feel it again. And so let this feeling, this pain, drive you to be even better. And I thought about it and I said, you know what, there's some truth to that. But the reality is, to a certain degree, you can't get around it. Losing is a part of life. I'm watching the NCAA tournament, as I'm sure many of you are. And one of the announcers said last night, 68 teams came into the tournament happy. 67 of them will leave sad. And I said, phew, that's kind of major. Regardless of how happy you are this weekend, next weekend may be your time to be sad. And I said all that, y'all, and I don't know how exciting this sermon will be, but I think this is an awesome text. And I thought about that as I was watching the tournament and I was reading the scripture, and it just reaffirms the fact that none of us want to be losers unless the thought process of losing is shifted. And when I first heard of the reality show, The Biggest Loser, it didn't make any sense to me. I didn't do any research, and I just saw an advertisement for a show called The Biggest Loser. And I said, that ain't gone too far. I mean, who in life would even enter a reality show or a contest trying to be the Biggest Loser. But it wasn't until I started watching the show that I really understood the concept. And the concept of it is you are celebrated for losing, but losing things that are not, or the substance of who you are that really is not good for you. Many of the people who enter the show are already way overweight. And so you come into the show and you're challenged by contest to lose the most weight. Now, I don't watch the show on a regular basis, so I can't tell you all the ins and outs of it, but I do know that the winner is called the Biggest Loser. I thought about that as I looked at this text. And the truth is, in life, for us, based upon what the author of the Gospel according to Mark is sharing with us, that the winners in this life will truly be those who are the biggest losers. I'm just going to walk. I know y'all ain't feeling me. I'm going to tell you, because the truth is, in the life that we live, with this church full of church folk, Christians, regardless of whether you're mature or immature, you've been saved and sanctified for 80 years, or you just got to know Jesus 2 weeks ago. All of us still live in the world. And the world that we live in, as much as we love Jesus, makes us believe that to be all that, you gotta have all that. I know, you don't really want to hear it, but that's why you work 60 hours a week. That's why you got 2 jobs. Now, it may be to pay for little Johnny to go to college, but it may be to pay off some bills. But many of us have those bills because we were trying to buy stuff to keep up with somebody else. And so much of life, you judge people by what they have. You look at their car and you make a judgment. You go to their homes, you make a judgment. You look at what they wear, you make a judgment. You look at their jewelry, you make a judgment. You even look at their face and to determine whether or not a smile is there, and you make some type of judgment. You have been told, we have been told since we were little kids, get good grades, go to college, graduate, get a good job, so you can make a whole bunch of money, so you can buy a whole bunch of stuff. The more stuff you have, the more successful you are. I'm just trying to be honest. If you don't have a whole bunch of stuff, you probably, if you are not satisfied with what you have, you are probably not inviting folk to your house. If you don't like what you have, you probably are not telling people, ride with me. You ever known folk like that? Every time you go somewhere, they be like, we're gonna ride with you. No, it's good, let's drive your car. No, I got stuff on, it's all right, I don't mind, I sit all on your papers and everything, but I don't want you in my, can I come over to your house? No, I don't really want you to come over my house today. It's because most of the time, we're not satisfied with what we have. And we believe people will judge us based upon what we will have. And we will go the extra mile of putting ourselves in places that we know we won't be in for long, just for people to think we got it going on. You know you can't afford your house. You know in 2 or 3 years you're going to be facing some type of foreclosure, but you're going to ride it out so people can think you, I'm just trying to set the picture. You know you got a car and they gave you an 85-month loan on it. You way over top. But it don't make a difference because you want people to think you got it going on. And so you'll work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for what people think about you. Because our minds are designed that you love Jesus. I ain't questioning that. You up in the church every Sunday, and when offertory moment come around, you don't have a problem holding back on what you're going to get the Lord to make sure you straight. I'm just trying to be honest. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Huh? And a lot of us are focused because we want other people to think that we got it going on. And we have thought about what type of skit we can do, what type of design we can do. But this word, I need you to hear. I don't want you to be frustrated because the pulpit furniture ain't up here. I don't want nothing to distract you from hearing the word. Because when it's all said and done, it's not who in this world looks at you as a winner, but it's about God. Hey, look, this is what I like about the text, and I'm just going to take my time with it, because this is like a transition point in the life of Jesus, and it makes sense that we're pretty much right in the middle of our journey, and we look at this text. Right around the 27th chapter, right around the 27th verse, there is a specific transition. And the transition shows us that the disciples and Jesus are right around Caesarea Philippi. And if you know anything about the geographical location, you know that this is a region where not a lot of people populated. And so Jesus finds himself there with his boys, and they're sitting there and they're conversating. And so Jesus knows, because the ministry is popular, wherever they go, folks show up because they heard that Jesus got power. He can make some stuff happen. Wherever he goes, blind people see. Wherever he goes, lame people are walking. Wherever he goes, something happened. But Jesus needs to spend some time with the disciples. Now, what he does is, usually Jesus talks to the people first and the disciples second. But this time he talks to the disciples first. And he asks them a very pertinent and relevant question. And the question is, who do the people say that I am? And they go out and they say you're John the Baptist. Some of the folks say you Elijah. Some of them say, I don't know who he is, but he's somebody special. Gotta be one of the prophets. Then Jesus shifts the thing. It says, all right, I hear what they say, but y'all been with me. Who do you think that I am? Now, Matthew and John have some different interpretations, but Mark gets straight to the point, and he goes straight to Peter, who usually is the representative of the disciples, and Peter says, the Christ. Now, you would think that Peter is celebrated for saying that, but Peter, to a certain degree, has the muffle put on him. Don't tell anybody else that. The same way Jesus tells the demons not to tell anybody else, he tells Peter, don't tell anybody else. You know why? Because to a certain degree, he says it, but he doesn't believe it. Lord have mercy. That's a whole nother sermon for a whole nother day. Because there's a whole bunch of us up in this piece right now who scream Jesus' name, who sing Jesus' name, who preach Jesus' name, who pray to Jesus, who got little name tags on, got parking spaces, and talk about how long they've been leaders of the ministries, but don't get who Jesus is. I know. I ain't gonna get much amens, that's fine. But it's the truth. Don't tell nobody who I am till you understand it. How do you know he didn't understand it, Reverend? If you go to the book of Acts and you look around the first chapter, around the 6th, 7th, 8th verse, they come to Jesus after the death and the resurrection, crucifixion, resurrection, right before the ascension, saying, are you now coming to take over? That's letting you know that the disciples saw everything that was happening and still didn't get it. All right, I don't want to stay there, so they keep on going. He says, all right, let me tell you what's going to happen. I ask you, who am I? You tell me. Let me tell you what it means. What it means is this. I am going to live this life, but soon, and very soon, the very ones who should support what I'm doing will be the very ones who turn on me. And he goes on to say the chief priests and the elders and the scribes and all of those who should be supporting the message are the very ones who are going to try to sell me out. He goes not just there, but he goes even further with it. They're going to kill me. But 3 days later, I'll rise again. And you think this ain't the first time the disciples heard this. You think it just be confirmation that it will strengthen them. But guess what? Peter steps up again. And Peter, the text says, does what? Pull him aside. I guess he's trying to save face for Jesus. Takes him in another room and rebukes him. Telling him, Jesus, shut up with all that craziness. We ain't trying to hear that. I don't know what he said, but that's what the text says. Jesus gets back with the disciples and realizes that something major has happened. He rebukes Peter, says, get thee behind me, Satan. You don't understand the things of God because your mind is on the things of man. God, I'm just trying to set the tone for where we're going. And then he takes the disciples and he calls the people. Usually it's the other way around. It's the people and disciples. Now it's the disciples and the people. And he says to them, and I'm going to read it again. If anyone will come after me, he must deny himself. Where the biggest loser concept come from? If we live in a world that says to win is to gain, then Christ in essence is saying to win is to lose. See, for some of us, that's going to mess us up. Y'all remember the brother in the text that goes to Jesus and says, I've been following you since I was a little kid. I know all of the scriptures, following all the rules. Then Jesus says, leave your stuff and come with me, and he can't do it. And for many of us, we cannot do it. We try to justify what we have and the way we live, and we try to squeeze Jesus in. But Jesus says, no, if you really want to be with me, the first thing you got to do after you come to me is deny yourself. What does deny yourself mean, right? Well, sometimes it means you got to be uncomfortable. Sometimes it means you got to be uneasy. Sometimes it means you got to give up some stuff. Sometimes it means you won't be recognized. Fame won't be at your door. Sometimes it means that there won't be any position or power or pleasure or good feeling. That denying yourself doesn't mean hate yourself, but it means putting your ego and your own course, if it is outside of the will of God, aside, so that you can take up the cross and follow him. What was the cross really about? The cross was really about us. Taking up the cross was about us. It was about Jesus loving us enough to give up of himself for the sake of us. Which means that if I deny myself and take up my cross, I've got to be about somebody else. And I know that ain't something that we hear all the time. That's not anything we want to do sometimes. Because it's so much easier to forget everybody else and be about us. And for many of us, we have an us theology, where we believe that if we give God the praise and we shout out the Lord, then God is obligated to give us back stuff. So it's almost like our praise is an exchange for God's blessings. And so it really had nothing to do with anybody else. It is almost like, God, when I give you, you need to give me back. And I live in my own isolated world with my own isolated stuff. And I want my own isolated God to rain down on me in my stuff. But God is saying in this text, if you really want to be about me, the first thing you got to do is deny yourself. And so think about it. How much of you blocks you from God? And I see that's uneasy. So I'm going to take my time. Because the truth is, a lot of us, we always looking at somebody else. We'll never spend no time with us. You can always point out somebody else's flaws. You can always bring somebody else's down. You know, we got The world has some of the biggest devils, and they right up in the church. They sneak around, they wear ushers' uniforms, they serve on the ministries, and all they do is pollute and pass poison about other people. And then when you find them out, they get mad and they're ready to cut your throat. But the truth is, sometimes, because see, your term is short term if all you're doing is trying to hang around here. I ain't trying to hang around here. I'm trying to live forever. I want to make it through eternity. This ain't number 80 or 90 years. Hopefully, if I live this long, 50 or 60 years if I'm lucky, I ain't trying to die and it be done. I'm trying to be with the Lord forever. And so what I'm doing is, I'm trying to show God that I am faithful to who God is. And so the way I treat folk now, I believe God is looking at on a regular basis. And so know that sometimes you got to check yourself and look at yourself. And if you're still here, it ain't too late to get it together. If you still here, don't make a difference what you did yesterday, or where you were last week, or how messed up you were last month. But the problem is, if you're so arrogant that you don't hear it, and you leave here and say, I'm gonna keep on being myself, then you take the chance of dealing with what verse 38 says. If I am ashamed, right now. All right, I won't go there. Let me go back up to 34. I'll come back there because this thing ain't nothing to play with. Come after me, deny myself, take up the cross, follow me. For whoever wants to save your life will lose it. You hear that? You living your life for now. When it's done, it's done. If you want to save it, you'll lose it. But whoever loses it for the sake of the gospel will save it. The beautiful thing about this text that I love is, regardless of what scenario you choose, it ain't your life, regardless. If you lose it, it ain't yours. If you lose it for the sake of the gospel, you save it, still belongs to God. So regardless of how you mix it up and shake it, it all belongs to the Lord. And so if you got to focus on this thing and look at it, if I deny myself, if I give myself to the Lord, if I follow him, if I lose myself for the sake of the world, when it's all said and done, then God will be pleased with the way I am. And it may end up making me look like a loser now. But when it's all said and done, I gain in the eyes of Christ. Now, I'm not going to try to give anybody here any glossy, flossy perception. The truth is there's some people out there who big balling for the Lord. And they living in big old houses. And they driving big old cars. I can't guarantee you that that's going to be your testimony. And the truth is, when you really sold out for the Lord, then that means you probably are going to be doing things that other people aren't doing. You probably going to have to stand up and speak against things that other people are doing. When you're really living for the Lord, it's probably going to cause you to give up some stuff that you got now for the sake of somebody else. If you're really living for the Lord, there may be some lonely days when you really living for the Lord. There'll be some moments when people are dragging your name through the mud and you can't do nothing but smile and pray about it. And if you're really living for the Lord, there are going to be some times when nothing makes sense about the direction that you're going and where you're trying to go. And in the eyes of the world, that may make you a big loser. When your people calling you, they talking about they get ready to go out and have a good time, and you sitting in the house chilling, because you know if you go out, you're going to be doing some things that you probably shouldn't do for the benefit of yourself and your witness. Amen, somebody. Some of the stuff you do ain't just, see, this is the thing we got to look at in the big picture, and I'm just talking for a second, but when you are doing jacked up stuff, you ain't just jacking up yourself. You jacking up the whole kingdom of God. And see, when you go out and you doing stuff and folk know what you're doing and you out there and they see you singing Sunday, and then they in the club with you and they just so happen to see the back of your head while y'all on the dance floor, and then look around and realize that it's sister so-and-so, the same one that was talking about so-and singing whatever, or a preacher so-and-so, and you realizing that the same person that is now behind you is the same person that you was ministering to last week. It can jack up your witness. And you got to realize it. Even when you're dealing with haters, you have to ask God to give you the strength, because you may want to go down and tell them some stuff. And I'm serious, sometimes you just want to go and get your name right, but you lose your witness trying to stoop down to somebody else's level, because you got to realize that this thing is about principalities. It ain't just about you and them, it's about a whole battle over the kingdom. And sometimes the enemy knows what to do to mess you up. I tell you this all the time. When you think about denying yourself, the enemy knows what to put in your face to jack up your witness. And if you aren't a drinker, if you aren't one that can't drink without acting a fool, y'all hear what I'm saying? If you are one that has a weakness for a certain thing, then the enemy will find a way to put those things in your way. If you are one who has a quick temper, then the enemy will do something to make you be in a position to lose your witness, so that others who are trying to watch you fall can see you, but others who are unsuspecting and still wrestling with where they are see you fall as well, and destroys the witness. And so we got to get to a point where we not just try to win in the world, but be losers as it relates to the world, but be winners as it relates to God. You really got to get to a point where you don't care what people think about you, so that God is pleased. Now, that doesn't mean that you got to walk around here being a pauper. You don't have anything, can't do anything, but it means that your witness has to be protected. And it may cause for you to be a loser now, to be a winner later. And I know it's hard, and I know it's a challenge, and I know I'm just trying to look. I thought about the messages and where we've gone as it relates to when I preached. And we talked about deal and no deal. That takes strength. That takes focus. That takes being in the Word. We talked about an extreme makeover. That takes opening yourself up to the Lord. But none of what we're talking about for the whole series means nothing if we don't truly embrace what God speaks to us through Jesus. Who do you say I am? Who do people saying I am? Let me tell you what it's going to really look like. You've embraced the ministry of preaching. You've embraced the ministry of teaching. But can you embrace the ministry of suffering? For so many of us, we think suffering means physical beating. For some of us, we suffer because we give up some stuff that sustained who we are. What are you willing to sacrifice for a closer walk with the Lord? I'm telling you, all of us have been tripping to some degree. Even with the fasting, I've enjoyed listening to some of our testimonies. You know, on last Wednesday, I prayed, Lord, please help me get through these last 2 hours, because I'm hungry. It was something that maybe something that you want me to hear right now. You know, help me. And for some of us, the truth is that's what the fast is about. It is about offering up something so that you can spend more time talking to the Lord. You know, it's not just about saying I ain't gonna eat. Just to say I can go 12 hours without eating. Fasting without praying is nothing. You got to fast and pray. That's the whole point of it. I don't eat because I'm talking to the Lord. Doing Lent, if you're giving up whatever it is you're giving up, then you're giving it up so you can spend more time with the Lord. If you're not on the computer, then you ought to be spending that computer time talking to the Lord. Y'all hear what I'm saying? This is what denying yourself is all about. And if you are living your life and you ain't giving up nothing for the sake of the kingdom, other than 2 hours on Sunday morning, and then for some of us, we don't do that but once every other month, or we come to Bible study 2 times a year. If you don't give up anything, then how are you denying yourself? And I'm just sharing with you here the importance of bringing ourselves closer to the Lord. I don't have no points, but this. I may have to be viewed in an unpopular manner in my physical life for God to view me as a winner when I connect with him in another life. My friends may talk about me. The people that I'm in relationship with may think I'm crazy. My mother and my father, my sister and my brother, even the church folk may try to tear you down. But when it's all said and done, the only person or the only being that really matters is the Lord. And listen, let me say this real quick, and then I'm going to talk about the 38th verse, and I'm going to be done. And I say this, I'm serious about this. Pray during this Lenten season for 2 things. For people to tear other people down, and for the Spirit for you to overcome it. All right? One of the biggest problems that I found out in life is that we so want to please people that we would do whatever people want us to do just so they can be cool with us. Just so they can like us, even if it ain't right. We will be bending over backwards just so folks can say, oh, I like that. That's good. Keep on doing that. And so because our self-esteem is so low sometimes, we'll do whatever we can to make it. You need to pray. Because not everything that everybody says is of the Lord. And it ain't for your good. Right? And sometimes people gonna talk about you, and you just need to let them talk. And every time somebody talk about you, you ain't gotta go defending yourself. You know, because I wouldn't even be the pastor right now if some of the foolishness that I have heard come out of the mouth. Because for real, I don't like it all. And I hear a whole bunch of it. And there's been many a days where I want to pick up the phone and call sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so because I heard they just said something. But I got to say, Lord, when it's all said and done, what's the big picture? You get what I'm saying? You know, when it's all said and done, they talk about me, talk about the executive minister. What's the big picture? Do we got to fight every battle? No. When they start saying stuff about my family, do I fight every battle? No. You just let it go. Right after this sermon, somebody gonna be on the phone. I'm telling you right now. Like, he must was talking about me. Thinking in your mind right now, who I told what I last said, and who go back. And I'm telling you all the time, you better watch who you say stuff to. Because there's a whole bunch of folk around here that you around here running your mouth to. They'll come right on back to you for everything you say. Alright, so watch it. And it ain't just here, it's on your job. The main ones that sit beside you talking about some girl, I ain't gonna tell nobody. You know how you always preference everything. I'm gonna tell you, you better not tell nobody. I ain't gonna tell nobody. Soon as you get out there, sometimes because of technology, you can be sitting there talking to somebody and they texting somebody else what you saying while you right there. You gotta watch it. And while you turn somebody else down. And so this is what I'm telling you, pray for those folk. I'm telling you to rebuke it. If it's you, ask God for forgiveness. If you're a hearer, say, Lord, help me. So I'm going to keep on letting foolishness go in to hurt somebody else. And let's together say, what can I do to please God and not man? Because when it's all said and done, Jesus says, deny yourself, take up the cross, and follow me. Those are the three instructions that we get. Deny myself. Whatever it is it going to make the kingdom better? Will God be glorified? Is it just about my cross and my stuff? Or just helping somebody else? Am I following the Lord? Am I showing others that I am a Christian by the actions that I'm taking right now? What does it profit a man to gain everything and then lose your soul? And the 38th verse says, and this is the, see, we like to skip stuff like this because it doesn't really seem nice, but it's not. It's meant to mean what it says. If you are ashamed of God now, then when the time comes, the favor will be returned. And you got to think about that thing. I don't want to be walking around here trying to act like I ain't a Christian just for somebody else. And there are going to be some people who got an argument and they tell you why you ought not follow the Lord. They tell you why you should follow this person or this being or that being. And you need to just get stronger so you can articulate your own faith. But don't ever be afraid to claim God. Because one thing I don't want to see happen is when I got to go stand before the Lord when it's all over to hear God say, who? Tyrone Nelson coming up, Lord, who? Because that's how he treated me. When he was at work and they was all cussing folk out, he was jumping right on in. I don't know who he is. When I blessed him, but he never blessed anybody else. I don't know who he is. Every tax season, drop a couple $1,000s in his pocket, and he took it and spent every dime of it. I don't remember who he is. All them folk that called him for help, and he had the resources to help somebody, and he wouldn't help anybody. I don't know who he is. That Tyrone that wouldn't speak to people. That Tyrone that was mean and nasty and cruel. That Tyrone who acted like it was all about him and nobody else. That Tyrone, I don't know him. I don't fool with him the same way we do God. Think about your life. You treat God like that? Are you ashamed? Are you ashamed? Do people even know where you are right now? Or you just turn up missing on Sunday morning? I've been texting you all morning. Oh yeah, I've been busy. Instead of just saying I was in church, I was glorifying the Lord, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Might mess around joining the choir on Tuesday. Because the Lord's been good, I want to serve. You can't say you don't know. At this point, you know. How you respond is going to be on you. Let me read it one more time so you can say that you heard it, because I don't want the Lord holding me accountable. If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him or her when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. I'm challenging you to be the biggest loser you can be for the sake of the kingdom. The more you lose, the more you gain. As we remain seated, heads are bowed, eyes are closed. Dear God, we thank you. Help us, Father. Speak to us, oh Creator of the universe. Show us how to focus less on ourselves and more on you. Less on what we like and what we expect, and more on your will. Today, God, I need to be reminded, I need to be shown how to deny myself. How to make sure that whatever it is I'm doing is a reflection on you. And that I'm not out seeking some personal prestige or for me to be more powerful or for more fame or accolades for me or for my ego to be boosted even more than it already is. Dear God, our prayer is for you to show us how to be selfless in the lives that we live. Not to self-hate, but to love ourselves so we can love somebody else. I need to know how to deny myself. Teach me, Lord, how to take up the cross. Somebody needs to benefit from my caring. Continue to show me, Lord, how to follow you. When it's all said and done, I can have the best shout in the world. I can sing the best song, can preach the best sermon, pray the best prayer, give the most money, but all of it means nothing if my heart isn't right.